Marie Meow. I am a social worker and also the art coordinator for all of our creative expression classes, and welcome to our acrylic painting class today. And I'm excited to welcome back Davina Wong. She taught us our watercolor class, so she's back to teach us our acrylic painting class today. So I will let you take it away.
Thanks, Marie. I'm excited to be here today to teach you guys a watercolor painting. We're going to be painting, as you probably saw in the newsletter, a sunset overlooking the water. It's a very relaxing, tranquil scene. So hopefully you guys will feel relaxed as you guys are painting this painting. And I just wanted to show you guys two that I did, and you can tell they both look a little different. So it's a good reminder that as you guys are painting, to not focus on perfection, but to just enjoy the process and not worry too much about the details or making it look perfect. And most importantly, yeah, is to just have fun and to enjoy yourself. Okay, so before we begin, I just wanted to go over a little bit of basic color theory to make it a little bit easier to understand, like how the colors work. So if you can tell, the warm colors are on one end, and then these are the cool colors, which are on this side, and these are the neutral colors, and then there's black and white. So when you mix colors together, say you mix the warm colors together, and those are colors that make you think of warmth, fire, the sunset. Those colors, if you mix these colors together, they will usually stay nice and bright. And then these are the cool colors, which is green, blues. Those are the cool colors that make you think of, the grass, fresh, vibrant colors that, if you mix together, will stay true to their tones. Because sometimes I know in the past, growing up, when we paint with colors, a lot of times the colors will turn into a big brown mess. And that's okay if you're trying to make brown, but if you want the colors to stay true, then you would mix warm colors together and cool colors together. And then you have the neutral colors, which neutralize the colors. But today we'll be mainly using the cools and the warm colors and adding a little bit of black. So before we begin, we're going to set up our paint palette, and I'll let you know which colors we'll be using. And we will also be using a few of these brushes. We won't be using all 5, but we will be using number 10, which is this brush here. We will also be using brush number 6, which is this one here, the second to smallest, and 0, which is the smallest brush. So one thing I just wanted to let you know is that sometimes with these packs of brushes, the bristles sometimes tend to shed a bit. So to help solve this issue, what I do is I dip the brush in water, and you can kind of massage out some of the excess glue that might be stuck to the brushes when they're being packaged, and then just wring it out, and then you'll notice some of the hair will fall out. So don't be alarmed if there are some bristles that end up on the canvas. You can always brush it off later. So if you want to do that with your brushes now, you can go ahead and I guess we'll give them a moment just to clean out the brushes, and then just be sure to dry them. And make sure you have a cup of water, a towel, just to dry your brushes and to clean it off before you mix the colors, and of course your paint palette. And if you want, you can put a mat underneath your canvas just to keep your surface area clean. Okay. So perfect. I guess we can begin setting up our paint palette. So first we're going to put white, and I'm going to put it on the left quadrant, but you could do it however you'd like. But we're going to be using more white, so I'm going to put more white into this well over here. And then we will also be using yellow. And I'm going to squeeze less than the white, about a medium amount. And after that, we are going to use vermilion, which is this orangey color, kind of reminds me of the color of fire.
Is it about the same amount as the yellow?
Yeah, we can do around the same amount
Okay.
as the yellow. And we're going to add more color as we go, so don't worry if you don't have enough space in the well. Sometimes I tend to add the color on top of the canvas as well, just to blend it, and it's just easier that way.
Okay.
Okay, next we're going to add the Cobalt Blue, which is the lighter blue. And I'm going to add some here, probably the same amount as the yellow.
I love this color. It's
Yeah,
so,
it's really pretty.
yeah,
It's very
calming.
serene.
Yeah.
It's perfect for the sky and the
Yes.
ocean. And then we're going to use the ultramarine blue, which is the bolder blue. This color is fun too. We could put a little bit less than the lighter blue for this one because it's a stronger color. And then, oh, I forgot to add this is the crimson red. We're going to add just a little bit of the red. We're going to be mixing it to make the sunset tones. So less than the blue. Okay, and later on we'll be using a tiny bit of black. So we can add that later. Just wanted to let you guys know.
Which orange? So it's called the title. The names of the colors are on the top. So the orange that we used is called vermilion.
And then this one is the crimson red. It looks the orange looks almost reddish.
So
yeah.
not the burnt sienna, but the brighter one called vermilion.
Yeah, so these ones are the neutral colors, which we won't be using today, but these are great for neutralizing colors, and you guys can have fun painting with these colors on your own as well. Okay, I think we're ready to start painting.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to take brush number 10.
Okay.
And I'm going to add some white first to the canvas. So we're going to paint a quarter of the canvas blue. So leave a little bit of space down here for the orange part. And then we're going to put the horizon around the middle. So I just want to give you guys a heads up before we begin painting.
Do
so
you
can
typically dip
space
the
them out.
brush in the water first, or can we just dip straight into the paint?
You could dip straight into the paint.
Okay.
If you have already cleaned out the bristles and softened up
okay.
the glue, you can just make sure the brush is dry and then dip it into the paint. But you can dip it in water first and just pat it dry and add the paint. So we're going to brush the first quarter of the canvas white. And then you can go a little bit lower than that because we're going to be adding the orange beneath that. And it just helps blend the colors a little bit better. So we're going to brush just in a back and forth motion. Going up and down. How are you doing?
Soothing.
Every time I mix colors, it reminds me of when I was in school. My friends and I would always get hungry because the paint would always remind us of frosting. It's sort of like baking.
It does, the texture of it, especially the acrylic.
Yes.
Does
yeah,
that.
acrylic and oil has that nice
Yeah.
texture. I mean, it doesn't smell as appetizing, but.
So if we wanted to keep the texture, we could keep it a little thicker.
Yeah, you can keep it thicker.
Okay.
It might go down a little bit as we mix the blue.
Okay.
But that's okay too. So
Yeah.
we can always go back and add more layers to it. It is nice if you add a thicker coat of paint. So if you find yourself running out of white, just go ahead and add a little bit more because we'll be using the white a lot.
Okay.
So then after that, we're going to dip our brush to get some of the cobalt blue, and then start from the top again and then drag it out. So you can see the colors blend together. So we want to create a gradient. As you can tell, it goes from dark to lighter. And the white really helps it blend out better. Go back and forth. And then after we add the blue, we're going to add a little bit of the cobalt blue just to the ends, the top part, so that you can see a bit more of a contrast with the gradient. So we're going to dip. You don't need too much blue, just a little dip of the blue, and then we'll start from the top and blend it out. I would say maybe half of the blue will be the cobalt blue, so you can stop halfway. And if it's not really showing up, you can add a little bit more blue just so that you can see the contrast easier. Is it showing up for you?
I think
blue?
so. Yeah.
Yeah, you can feel free to add more and just brush it lightly so that the blue doesn't get blended in too much, so that you can still see the color. After we have the first part of the sky, we can clean our brushes, and we're going to begin mixing the orange tone. So blue and orange are actually on the opposite ends of the color wheel, which means they complement each other. So they're opposite colors. So when you use those two colors together, it creates a nice dramatic contrast. Okay, so make sure your brush is nice and clean. Pat it dry. Acrylic tends to stick to the brushes a lot.
Yeah. Right.
And then we're going to be mixing the orange, the vermilion orange, the yellow and white, and just a tiny bit of red. So I'm going to start by putting the white in the little well here, the mixing well, the square section of this palette, and then see around this much.
Okay.
And then I'm going to add some of the yellow, dip some yellow, and some orange. Less orange than yellow, more of like a couple pats of the orange should be good. And then just a tiny bit of red. I don't know if you can tell here on the brushes. I'm using just a little bit of red just to warm up the tone a bit. And then we'll mix it, and then we can add more as we go along. So if you want it to be a little bit more orange or yellow or lighter, we can add some more colors. I think the best part is always mixing the colors together is quite therapeutic.
It is.
So now we have this nice salmon-ish orange color tone.
It's a creamy.
I really like this tone. I think I might add even a little bit more white to mine. So if you like yours more bold, you can feel free to keep it the way it is. And if you want it lighter, you can add a little bit of white to it. So just make it your own. I will be teaching you the technique, but yeah, have fun with it and don't feel the need to make it exactly the same as ours.
All right.
Good?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, now we're going to go underneath the blue area, and then we're
Okay.
going to paint pretty much a little bit more than halfway down.
Okay.
And then we're going to just paint a line at the end so that we'll know that's where the horizon line will be. And if it's not perfectly straight, it's okay, because we can go over it again when we paint the water, which is a darker color. I know straight lines sometimes can be a challenge. I find myself holding my breath when I paint or draw straight lines. Go back and forth. The other thing with acrylic is that it does tend to dry faster, so we do have to work quickly to create the gradient, but we can also add more white later to the middle part just to help it blend in better. So don't worry about it if it's not really blending. So I'm going to go down to a little bit more than halfway, create a vague line. We'll make it a little bit more precise later.
Do some people use like masking tape or?
Yeah, some people use masking tape. If you want it to be an exact line, you can put masking tape or washi tape, and then just go down to the line, and then you can take it out later too.
I sort of like that it's not perfectly straight.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that too.
Yeah, well, especially because in real life,
yeah,
you know, the ocean's always moving and floating.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Okay, so we can add a little bit of white to the middle area just to blend it out a bit. And then just go halfway so that you don't color the whole thing the same tone, so we can see the contrast with the lighter orange. Go back down. Yeah, you can put it like on the middle line area
middle
here,
line?
so that it's lighter, just to help it blend a little bit better. And then stop, midway, so that there's a contrast with the dark. And it's kind of nice if you have a little bit of the white streaks. They look like clouds. So I like to leave the little streaks on. I feel like it gives it a more organic feel to it. How are we doing?
Good.
Okay, after this, we'll be painting the water. So we're going to be using similar tones with the Cobalt Blue, which is the lighter blue. And we're going to do another gradient. So it'll be lighter near the horizon, and then it'll get darker. Okay, so we're going to clean our brush again. Make sure it's nice and clean. Okay. And tap the sides just to get the excess water out. And then wipe it on the towel just so see there's still excess paint that sometimes stuck to the metal tip.
Okay.
And then we're going to add the blue, and we're going to add some white to it too. So I'm going to put some white directly on to the canvas with the blue. Just it's easier to mix that way. And then we're just going to paint from the horizon line all the way down to the bottom. And then we'll add the darker tones later. So with acrylic paints, if you want it to have more texture, it's all about the layers. So you put in a base layer, so we're going to do a light blue for the base layer, and then we're going to go in and add some more color. Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so to paint the horizon line, I use the tip of the brush here and angle it straight. Holding your breath sometimes helps. Don't hold your breath too long, but usually I just start here with the tip and then slowly drag it out over, a little bit over the orange is fine too, just to cover up any whites that you might still have on the canvas. And then we'll drag it out.
Which blue? So we are using the Cobalt.
The Cobalt, which is
blue.
the lighter blue. This one here.
The lighter of the two.
Mm-hmm. The one we initially used for the sky. And then I'm going to add a little bit more of the Cobalt Blue to the rest of the bottom, so it'll actually be a little bit darker as we go down. Make sure you use enough paint to cover the texture of the canvas. Okay, so now I have this part covered, so go all the way down to the bottom, and then the top part will be a little bit lighter from where the blue is. Keep going all the way down. I'm going to go over the horizon line a little bit more because I still see some whites on the canvas. So lightly dragging my brush down to cover up the extra white spots. I'm brushing some more. And then after you're done coloring the blue, the first layer, we're going to add, we're going to take the black, and then we're going to add just a tiny, tiny bit of black to the ultramarine blue, which is the darker blue of the two, this one right here. And black goes a long way, so try to use the smallest amount that you can. So usually I'm going to put it on the side of the palette, if you can see here. Just a tiny bit over there, just so it doesn't mix in until I mix it together. It looks nice. I like the textures that you're creating in the water.
Yeah. I did that. This reminds me of when I had to take my art training.
Oh.
Yeah, we did a lot of working with texture.
That's really neat.
Okay.
It's like a Monet.
Yeah. Okay. So
I was telling that, yeah, we're going to use the ultramarine blue.
Okay.
And then take a tiny bit of black. I just put it on the edge so I can just add it as we go. So I'm going to dip my brush in the blue first, the ultramarine blue, the darker one, and just tap just a tiny bit of black. And then I'm going to go to the bottom of the canvas, and we're only going to make the bottom. So out of this blue water area, we're going to do 1/4 of it this color, which is again, it's the ultramarine blue with a tiny bit of black, just to make it a little bit darker so that we can see a contrast. So I'm mainly going to get the corners here and then blend it out so that the black gets mixed in with the blue. And go back and forth to blend. You don't have to press very hard, you just very lightly go back and forth with the brush. And I'm going to add more of just the blue here. How's it turning out? Is it looking darker?
Yes.
Oh yeah, it looks good. You're a good student.
Thank you.
Okay, so once you have added the darker color, the fun part is adding the waves. So To create the waves, you can clean this brush. I'll let you guys finish this up and I'll explain the next step. We'll be using the number 6 brush, which is the second to smallest. And you can go ahead and dip it in the water just and clean it out. And make sure you pat it dry. And we'll be using the same ultramarine blue that we use for the bottom part of the water so that it shows up in the water.
Okay.
So we're going to start from the bottom to the top, and I'm going to create little lines going from thick to thin to mimic the waves. And as we get closer to the horizon line, the lines will be thinner and closer together to give it the perspective that the waves are closer to us and it goes further out into the horizon. So I'm going to show you how I paint the waves. I'm going to mix this blue here. So make sure your brush is coated nicely with the paint. I'll wait for you to finish a little bit.
Okay, I'm ready.
And then you can probably just leave the brush on the side.
Okay.
And then use the number 6 brush.
6, okay.
And then we're going to use the same ultramarine blue, the darker blue.
Okay.
And then make sure you coat it well.
Okay.
And then we're going to create a line, so like a thick to thin line.
I'm going to look at your sample so I know.
Yeah, feel free
Okay.
to. So thick to thin, that. So once I put one on, I put 2 here, and then we can put one in the middle. And then thick to thin. I'm going to add another one down here. Okay, I'm going to start making the lines thinner as we get closer to the horizon. Okay, so more so like lines now. They'd be like this. I'm going to clean the brush and use more of the lighter blue as we get closer to the horizon to match the shade, which is the Cobalt Blue. Because I'm running out on my paint palette here, so I'm going to add some more. Okay. I like the shape of your waves.
Thank you.
And you can make your waves more serene and flat if you'd like to make it more tranquil, or if you want it to be roaring waves, you can make them more dramatic. So I'm going to continue to draw little lines with the lighter blue over here, which is like the top half of the water. And the lines get closer together. And then I'm going to go back to the bottom part where I painted the first waves with the lighter blue, the Cobalt Blue. I'm going to paint just the tip edge of the waves to accent the colors, to give it a bit of a shine and more texture. So it'll just be the top part, the top half of the waves, just to accent them. Looks good.
Okay.
Okay, and then now I'm going to clean this brush, and we are going to take the 0 brush, the smallest brush, and we're going to start painting the reflection of the sun. So we're going to be putting the sun in the center, around the middle part of the canvas. So actually, let's go ahead and paint the sun first.
Okay.
Yeah, so then we know where the reflection will be. Okay, so we're going to add more white. If you're out of white,
Okay.
go ahead and add some more here. And then we'll be wrapping this up soon. So this will be, the last part will be drawing the reflection, the shine from the sun. So taking the size 0 brush, dipping it in the white, we're going to coat our brush in white. And you can get a good amount since it's a light color. We want to make sure it shows up. And then going to the center of the canvas, we're going to paint a small circle. And you can make yours larger too if you'd like. I'm making mine around this size here. Okay, and then taking a little bit more paint after that, I'm going to go down to the middle of the horizon, right underneath the sun, just to make a line of white, and tapping it to show the reflection. So as I go down, I'm going to make the white wider, but using little brush strokes like this to show the reflection of the sun on the water. Yeah, like that. That's good.
Okay.
And then dipping the brush into the white again, we'll add a tiny bit of white to the tips of some of the waves, as you can see here, just to give it some accent, to show the reflection of the light. So we can add just a little bit of, you can lightly just dot the white onto the tips of the waves. Give it some shine. And the last step is, if we run out of time, you can go ahead and finish this on your own. We're going to use the same salmon color we used for the sky to lightly dot just a little bit of the waves, the tips of the waves as well, and near the horizon line, just to give it some of the reflection of the sky. So I'm going to go ahead and just, I'll do it really quick here, by adding little bits of the salmon orange. Oh.
Do you think you could repeat the instructions for
the
is it
color, the reflection?
The reflection, I think.
So if we, I was going to say, if we run out of time, you can go ahead and do this part at home by taking the same color we used for the sunset sky, the orange salmon color, and just lightly use the same brush, just lightly color, like just dab a little bit of color throughout the waves, mainly where the reflection of the sun is, just to mimic the sky, and it adds a nice touch of color to the ocean as well. So I'll show you really quickly here, just tapping a little bit of the orange just to give it an accent. And you can even add some of the yellow as well. Just feel free to have fun with it and experiment. There should be enough paint for you to practice on other surfaces as well. And it doesn't need to be just the canvas. You can also use cardboard, you can use watercolor paper, you can use different surfaces. Just see what works. You can even use wood. If you have, old pieces of wood lying around, it's beautiful to paint on wood, or a canvas bag, grocery bags. And for the palette, you can use an old plate. You can use like the glass of the picture frame as your canvas. Just don't use it for eating after you do that. But yeah, you don't need to have all the supplies to create the art. So as long as you have the paint and the brushes, anything could be your canvas.
Perfect.
How are you doing?
All right.
Well,
Yeah.
that's good. I like how yours turned out.
It's more
Texture is
probably
really
muted.
fine.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the gradient you did too on the top part of the sky. Yeah, good job.
Did we finish?
So,
Yeah.
oops. This is the finished product. As you can tell, they all look
Yeah, they
different,
look different.
which is completely fine. Everyone has
Yes, everyone
own
has their own style.
And even when I repeat it, it looks different.
Yeah.
So.
I was always told in art class that everybody has their own handwriting and their own stroke, and it's the same with painting. So,
That's a good way to put it.
yeah. Well, thank you everybody
Thank
for
you.
joining us today. Next month we have Shelly coming back to teach us bath bombs. So please, it'll be a DIY bath bomb, and please look out for the email so that you can register for the next class in February. Thank you so much.
Thank you.